Seeing it's 6 p.m., I'd like to call the June 7th, 2023 regular meeting of the Kenai City Council to order. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening and ask that if you're able to, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Naxted,
Here.
Councilmember Dothett,
Here.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Here.
Councilmember Askin,
Here.
Mayor Gabriel,
Here.
Councilmember Winger,
Present.
Councilmember Sonard.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, before we get to approval of agenda and consent agenda, I'd like to call your attention to a laydown you should have in front of you with requested additions to the packet. Action, add to item E1, ordinance number 3353-2023. Amendment memo from the Human Resources and also an amendment memo from Finance. These were both requested by administration. Action, add to item H18, discussion action, Kenai Peninsula Borough Ordinance 2023-11. Substitute, this was requested by legal. And finally, action, add to item P1, informational items, Kenai Animal Shelter Animal Fair Flyer, requested by Councilmember Winger. Pleasure, Council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the agenda and the consent agenda with the three additional items, E1, H18, and P1.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the body that'd like to amend either the agenda or consent agenda this time? Councilmember Naxton.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I would. I move to suspend the rules to address agenda item H16, amending an employment agreement between the City of Kenai and the City Clerk, Michelle Sainer, to be heard after agenda item M1, executive session to review and discuss the clerk's evaluation. Request unanimous consent.
I'll second.
Unanimous consent was requested. Is there an objection? Seeing none, the agenda is amended. Any further requested amendments? Councilmember Naxton?
I just request unanimous consent for the whole thing.
Very good, thank you. Any further requested amendments to the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please read the consent agenda into the record.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Approval of the regular meeting minutes of May 17th, 2023. Action approval, bills to be ratified, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, purchase orders and purchase order amendments requiring council approval in accordance with KMC 715-020, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, confirming the appointment of Lisa Gabriel to the Harbor Commission for a partial term ending December 31st, 2025, brought to you by Vice Mayor Baisden. Action approval, special use permit to the Department of Natural Resources Forestry for apron space for aircraft loading and parking, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, special use permit to Alaska Geographic for a vending kiosk and terminal space, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, special use permit to Alaska Air Fuel for apron space for aircraft loading and parking, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, special use permit to Crowley Fuels for apron space for aircraft loading and parking. Action approval, special use permit to Empire Airlines for apron space for aircraft loading and parking, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, special use permit to Everts Air Fuel for apron space for aircraft loading and parking, brought to you by the administration. Action approval, special use permit to United Parcel Service Company, Inc. for apron space for aircraft loading and parking. Action approval, special use permit for Weaver Brothers, Inc. for truck and trailer storage, brought to you by the administration. Action approval for special use permit to Sherry Swafford for community garden. Introduction of ordinance number 3357, 2023, amending Kenai Municipal Code, section 23.55.045 to establish an annual tool allowance for classified employees required to furnish their own standard working tools. Brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on June 21st, 2023. Ordinance number 3358, 2023, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the general fund to provide supplemental funding for the Parks and Recreation Utilities budget. Brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on June 21st, 2023, and that is your consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to any item that is on the consent agenda, which was just read in the record.
There are no remote attendees.
Seeing or hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the agenda the agenda and consent agenda are approved. Tonight, we have no administrative reports or scheduled public comments. That brings us to item D, unscheduled public comments. Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to address the council at this time on any item that is not on the agenda or consent agenda? Ms. Springer.
Hi, everybody. Samantha Springer, Executive Director of the Kenai Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to remind everybody that this Saturday is going to be Lemonade Day, and so if you guys could get out and support the kids, I know we'll be releasing a list of businesses where the kids will be at. It'd be really important just so they could see some more friendly faces, depending on how the weather is. And then also coming up is going to be our 38th annual fundraiser on June 24th. And so I did send an email out asking, as many people that could come from the city council. We'd really appreciate your support in coming. And I think that's all I have for now. I just wanted to make sure to get those ones out for June.
Very good. Any questions or comments from Ms. Springer? Thank you, Samantha. Is there anybody else from the general public that'd like to speak to council at this time on any item that's not on the agenda or consent agenda? Ms. Nelson.
Your mic, Marion.
God, I ought to know that at this point. Marion Nelson, Kenai Arts Center. So we have a great show right now. If you've read the Clarion or looked at the Clarion online, you can see Abby Euland's show, Abby Euland's work, Shannon Olds, potter, and Charlotte Coots, also another painter. Their work is excellent, and I'd have to lend as much as I appreciate the paintings of the women, I have to pay special credit to Shannon's, oh God, pottery work, because she has just advanced herself so much over the past several years. You will not see anybody else's pottery look like hers. Her glazing is extraordinary, as well as some other special features of her pieces. And they're worth looking at, as well as the very personal paintings that both, Abby and Charlotte did based on family members and living on dead. They're just extraordinary. It's really an extraordinary show. And the part of that is a spin-off of the mural show, which most of you are familiar with, that it's such a bonding experience during those 10 days to 2 weeks that people are in the art center from basically 10 in the morning till 10 at night. And that's where a lot of this comes from, that they get to know each other so well as their work. Some of it being new, like we wouldn't know Charlotte if she hadn't participated in the mural project, so forth and so on. That's kind of stories repeated often. So anyway, it's another spin-off of that great end-of-the-year project, but also that they decided on their own to come up with this very personal show, and it'll be up through the end of this month. So I hope you can stop by Wednesday through Saturday, noon to 5. Questions, anybody?
Questions? Comments?
Also, we've been part of City Manager Eubank's effort to work on the park that's next to the Arts Center, and I'm very excited about how that's progressing. Another thing, this is a big thing, we got some money from a couple of foundations to buy. I haven't had a chance to talk at length to Scott Curtin about this, just because he's pretty hard to reach a lot of days. Roughly a 12 by 20 storage building, gambrel roof, just like the storage unit that the Potter's Guild has behind the Art Center. So you know what it looks like. It'll look just like that, same color, blah, blah, blah. And we just have to come up with about $4,000 or $5,000, and we have some of that now. So and we'll have to get crushed rock to go under that, because the crushed rock that's in the courtyard area is, so deep, and on the other side of that, which would be the back, actually the front of our building, that's kind of a mess in there. That ground is bumpy and dirt and grass and blah, blah. So that's something that we will be working on and talking to you about when it comes to fruition. Any questions about that?
No, I just want to comment about your opening there. I was able to swing by Friday, and I was very impressed, obviously, with the art. But it was kind of neat because when I went through and looked at Abby Euland's stuff, I was seeing references to the Justice Slater family and some of the archives, the photos that she did, and I'm really familiar with that family, and I fished with Vic, and my brother fished for years with the family, so it was kind of neat to have that connection and then talk to her about what inspired her. So very, very cool.
She just lost her grandfather, so that, kind of makes it all the more.
Thank you, Marianne. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak to council at this time on any item that's not on the agenda or consent agenda? If you'd please just give your name and just let us know if you're a resident of the city of Kenai, please.
My name is Lindsay Bertoldo. I'm actually a resident of Nikiski, but I just wanted to let people know that at the Borough Chambers tomorrow morning, the Alaska School Board is going to be meeting at the Borough Chambers, and there's going to be a rally at 7:45 a.m. It's going to be about protecting girls' sports because the Board of Education will be deliberating about that. And so we're going to start the rally at 7:45. There's going to be signs, donuts, and coffee. And so we hope that people can make it out to support girls' sports. And then there's going to be public comments possible at 8:30 or 8:45. So if you could get there by 8:30, if anybody's interested in doing that, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is that 8:45 in the morning or 8:45?
In the morning.
In the morning,
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's rare for them to make it to the peninsula, so it's a good time to make our voices heard down here on the peninsula.
And that's, to be clear, that's the school board is meeting?
Yes, the Alaska School Board.
The Alaska School Board, okay, not the Kenai.
Board of Education, I should say.
Board of Education, there you
Yes.
go. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Ms. Patello?
Bertoldo?
Bertoldo. Seeing none, thank you. Is there anybody else from the general public that'd like to speak to the council at this time on any item that is not on the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing nobody online or in chambers, we'll move to public hearings. First up, under item E1, ordinance number 3353-2023, adopting the annual budget, salary schedule, and employee classification plan for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30, 2024, and committing $5,761,661 of general fund balance for future capital improvements. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3353, 2023.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3353-2023? Nobody online? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Comments, deliberation from council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. If it's appropriate, I'd like to go ahead and make the motions that are in our lay-down packet. And I thought I'd do them by department, actually, if that's okay. The first one is from Stephanie Randall, our HR director, and it's a two-part motion. To amend ordinance, I move to amend ordinance number 3353, 2023, section 5 as follows. Class code 418, airport operations supervisor, increase the range from 20 to 21. And amend fiscal year 24 budget documents as follows. Airport field special revenue fund on page 228, increase the salaries and benefits section by an additional $7,156.
Second.
Discussion on the motion amendment?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion carries. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. The second amendment's kind of a little bit longer one, and this is from Lana Metcalf, our controller. In the laydown, before I lose it. I move to amend fiscal year 24 budget documents as follows. General fund, fire page 134, account number 001-422-0700, workers' compensation, increase the proposed budget amount from $59,928 to $68,344. The Water and Sewer Special Fund, Revenue Fund, wastewater treatment plant, page 216, account number 010-467-4536, insurance, increase the proposed budget amount from $29,516 to $35,726. Airport Special Revenue Fund, Airfield, page 228, account number 008-462-0700, workers' compensation, increase the proposed budget amount from $5,785 to $5,995, and account number 008-462-4536, insurance, increase the proposed budget amount from $113,016 to $124,187. Congregate Housing Enterprise Fund, page 280, account number 009-462-4536, insurance, increase the proposed budget amount from $18,886 to $22,472 for an overall increase of $29,593 to the fiscal year budget document.
Second.
Discussion on the motion?
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Any objection? Seeing none, the motion carries. I think those were the two we had. I know there was actually a pretty detailed memo in our laydown regarding these, but if our city manager wouldn't mind speaking to it, just for folks that are listening online that might want to follow along, Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Regarding the First Amendment dealing with the reclassification of a position of the airport operations supervisor position at the airport, we've experienced some excessive turnover in the airport operations department in the last year. Those positions have proven difficult to fill and maintain fill. I did ask, as a precautionary measure, I did ask our HR director to take a look at the airport operations supervisor position and compare its duties and responsibilities to other positions in the city. And as a result of that, it was recommended that that position be reclassed from a range 20 to a range 21. And that was the First Amendment. The Second Amendment is a result of, we have actually received our insurance renewal quotations. The amounts included in the draft budget or the proposed budget here were estimates based upon information we were hearing from our insurance provider as well as our broker. Obviously, as you can see, we missed the mark a little bit. And one thing of note, because of the extremely, what's known in the industry as a hard insurance market, which means that the volume of insurance providers out there is shrinking and the costs are escalating as a result of a number of factors, but the most prominent being significant property losses that have occurred over the last few years through wildfires and hurricanes and various other things that honestly don't have any effect on us here in Alaska, but they certainly impact the entire insurance market. Our providers are no longer, either of the proposers are offering what they used to offer, which was a 3-year discount. So if we entered into an agreement for 3 years for insurance coverage, they would give us a 5% premium discount. We would commit to staying with them for 3 years, provided the premium didn't increase by more than 10% in any 1 year. Neither provider is comfortable offering that any longer, so we made the assumption that we would get that discount. It didn't happen, and as a result, this is the difference between what we estimated in the budget and what we need to award that contract. There will be, with passage of the budget, there will be a resolution before you at the next council meeting to award our insurance coverage to Alaska Municipal League Joint Insurance Association for fiscal year '24.
Thank you, Mr. Eubank. Further discussion on ordinance number 3353-2023 as amended? Councilman Nexton.
Did we, I request unanimous consent of the Second Amendment, if we didn't do that already?
Yes, we did. We did.
Oh,
Yep. Any further discussion on ordinance number 3353-2023 as amended? Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess on the budget, just comment, I think we're fortunate that, of course, our city manager, being previous finance director, knows the numbers as well as anybody, and having Larry Simmons here also, we've got probably two of the most experienced people working on our budget. So that works to our advantage. At the last meeting, I briefly just mentioned, and I think the city manager may be able to comment on this. I guess what we're doing here, I think, is fine. I think the budget works, but over time, I think that the compounding effect of everything that's taken place here, it doesn't add up with the revenues that we're going to be probably bringing in the near future, so that worries me. And I just think something of this group here, that as we deal with that, I think it will get more difficult in the years to come. We did receive federal money through the pandemic and other things that helped us in this situation, and I think we're fortunate just like other municipalities. I just want to thank the city manager and Larry Simmons for what they've done here.
Thank you. Further comments? I'd just like to say that I agree with you, Vice Mayor Basin. I think, we were fortunate to be able to at least utilize some of that money and part of these budget increases obviously are inflationary costs because of staffing, to attract qualified folks to apply at the city. We've got inflationary costs that are impacting the city of Kenai, just like every resident within this within the city and statewide and nationally for that matter. But we're still able to shoehorn some money towards some much needed capital projects. So I agree with you that I think that the city administration and finance department did a great job of trying to accommodate all that. They fell within the resolution that they proposed for us that we adopted back, I think, in January with the goals for this budget. Fortunately, we've been able to see increased revenue through sales tax, which has helped out also. So, something we definitely need to keep our eye on the ball moving forward. And I'd like to again echo Vice Mayor Basin's comments regarding the work of our finance department. Any further comments, deliberation? Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. With those amendments that we approved, there are some further amendments they're the same, but they go into the ordinance themselves that we just passed over from the city manager. So it just kind of completes the ordinance. So I'll move to amend ordinance 3353, 2023 as follows. Ordinance title 7th, whereas clause and section 3, amend the title 7th whereas and section 3 to replace $5,761,661 to $5,648,285. Section 2, amend the general fund amount from $19,468,821 to $19,447,237. Amend the congregate housing fund amount from $723,685 to $727,271. Amend the water and the sewer fund amount from $3,891,795 to $3,898,005. Let me read that again, $3,898,005. Amend the airport amount fund from $3,853,333 to $3,871,870. Amend the total special revenue funds from $19 $9,263,075 to $9,287,822. Amend the total all funds amount from $35,643,941 to $35,680,663. Request unanimous consent.
Second.
I'll second.
Further discussion on the amendment? Was unanimous consent requested? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? See none, the amendment carries. Further discussion on ordinance number 3353-2023 as amended? Councilmember Dothett.
I just wanted to say thank you to staff for all the work they put into it. We had some really good meetings, informative, being my first budgeting work sessions, and it was an interesting process to go through and very informative. And I just want to kind of reiterate a little bit of the concerns that I'm seeing with inflation and cost of staff increases for being able to attract new staff, that we definitely are going to need to start looking at. If we don't see some staggering number increases here soon on revenues, we might have to start looking to, if these numbers keep going on, compounding like they are in the next couple of years, I can definitely see us trying to have to look for other revenue sources, especially with the compounding effect, not only of the inflation, but with these larger bids that are coming in for capital projects or above and beyond what we thought. I can see the writing on the wall that we need to start looking into possible revenue increases if we don't start seeing something change more drastically than what we're seeing now. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, deliberation? See none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dothett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
and Councilmember Naxted.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3353-2023 is enacted as amended.
Thank you. Next up, we have item E2, ordinance number 3354-2023, accepting and appropriating grant funds from the Department of Justice passed through the Alaska Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force for the purchase of forensic software. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton, sorry.
I move to enact ordinance 3354, 2023.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to address, speak to ordinance number 3353-2023? Seeing nobody online or in chambers, we'll bring it back to council. Comments from council? See none. Oh, Councilmember Naxton.
Yeah, I was just curious through the chief, through the city manager, if this software is only for handheld devices, or does it do laptops and computers, and what is its limitation?
Chief Ross, through the city manager.
Through the mayor, Councilor Nexted, it's primarily used by us for cell phones, but it can also be used for other devices. I'm not sure the extent of that. I don't think we've used it on laptops, but I think Apple devices and things of that nature. What it does is it downloads all the data into a new file, and that's what we are working on instead of the original file. When we're doing an investigation, we can look through a copy of the original.
Vice Mayor Basin.
So maybe a comment to the chief too, and maybe the group other member. A long time ago, I used to help with forensic stuff with one of your police officers, and we received training, I think, from the crime lab. So do your officers still go for training for this type of thing too? Is this part of this, or is that something separate?
Chief Ross.
Through the mayor, Councilor Baisden. So this specific ordinance doesn't have any training involved in it, but they do go through various training with that. It's been I don't think they've had any specifically recently on the Cellbrite system, but they did when we first got it a couple of years ago. So, and they do have ongoing computer type training, but it's various. You know, it's not nothing tied to this ordinance.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Councilmember Dothit.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3354, 2023 is enacted.
Thank you. That brings us to item E3, ordinance number 3353-2023, amending Kenai Municipal Code 13.10.015 minor offense fine schedule to incorporate prior amendments to Kenai Municipal Code 13.30.030, street parking prohibitions, and the repeal of Kenai Municipal Code 3.30.095, parking prohibited on Kenai Avenue. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3355, 2023.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to ordinance number 335-2023? Seeing none. In line, online or in person, we'll bring it back to council. Comments, deliberation from council? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baisden.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3355, 2023 is enacted.
Thank you. That brings us to item E4, ordinance number 3356-2023, amending Kenai Municipal Code Title 23, personnel regulations to address recruitment and retention of employees and making housekeeping changes. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3356, 2023.
I'll second it.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to ordinance number 3356-2023? Seeing none in person or online, we'll bring it back to council. Comments from council? I'd just like to thank our staff in Human Resources Department for bringing this forward to find ways to, sort of think outside the box and provide, better mechanisms to attract qualified candidates for our job openings. Seeing no other further discussion, clerk, please call roll.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3356, 2023 is enacted.
That brings us to resolution number 2023-38, fixing the rate of levy of property tax for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30, 2024. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Dothit.
Sorry. I'd like to move to approve ordinance 33556, 2023, amending Municipal Code 2023, Title 23. Oh, sorry.
Actually, we'll be on
This is the
item,
next one, my bad.
yeah, E5.
Resolution number
Yes.
2023-38, fixing rate of levy on property tax for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, ending June 30th, 2024.
I'll second that and ask for unanimous.
Thank you. Anybody from the general public would like to speak to resolution number 2023-38? Okay, nobody online, nobody in chambers, council, or Vice Mayor Baisden.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Maybe an overview from the city manager, just for the public so they can hear what this actually means, and maybe a little history of where we've been at with this too, if you could.
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Baisden. Yes, so Resolution 2023-38 will set the city's mill rate, which is the rate of taxation that is applied against the assessed value of property within the city for fiscal year 2024. The rate is being set at 4.35 mils, which is the equivalent of $435 in taxes per $100,000 of assessed value. That has been the same mill rate since fiscal year 2015 in the city. It's been unchanged for the last, this will be the 10th year that we've had this mill rate at 4.35, which I think speaks very well of the city in creating a stable tax environment for our residents and for our businesses. So that's what this resolution does.
Further discussion? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2023-38 is adopted. That brings us to item E6, resolution number 2023-39, amending the comprehensive schedule of rates, charges, and fees to incorporate changes included in the FY 2024 budget to include adjusting airport fees, parks and recreation fees, city dock fees, water fees, sewer fees, senior center fees, and adjusting the monthly rental rates at Vintage Point. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2023-39, requesting unanimous consent.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to resolution number 2023-39? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Comments from council? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2023-39 is adopted. That brings us to item E7, resolution number 2023-40, authorizing construction agreement and corresponding purchase order for the 2023 North Willow Street roadway improvements project. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
I move to adopt Resolution 2023-40.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to resolution number 2023-40? Seeing none in chambers, I'll defer to the city manager, Mr. Eubank. I think he has a proposed comments for the following four resolutions. Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So last Thursday, the city was bid day for these, for the next three resolutions, these three road projects. Bids were received for Willow Street here, the first 2023-40. We received two competing bids. For resolution 2023-41, 42, we received a single bid for each of those. The administration, I can tell you, all three bids exceeded our available budget and exceeded our engineers' estimates for the cost of construction on those projects. The administration is still in the process of reviewing those bids and our available funding and charting the path forward. I would request postponement of Resolution 2023-40, 41, and 42 until the second meeting here in June, at which time the administration will have the path forward or the recommended path forward and any additional legislation that will be necessary to fund these projects before council and award at that meeting.
Councilmember Dothan.
Just a ballpark, is there a percentage and how much above and beyond our figures we're talking about?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Councilmember Dothan. I don't have by individual job. I can tell you that in total, as bid right now, we would need about an additional $330,000 total for the three projects in order to award and administer them. Each of those does contain a bit of contingency in them already. It was part of the bid, but we, based on those bids, we're $330,000 short at this point in time.
Further discussion? Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you. If there's no further on that, move to postpone Resolution 2023-40 to our June 21st meeting. Request unanimous consent.
I'll second that.
Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2023-40 is postponed to our June 21st meeting. Is that what it is? June 21st, the longest day of the year. That brings us to resolution number 2023-41.
That sounded ominous.
I know, I know. It just hit me. I don't know.
Move to adopt Resolution 2023-41.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to resolution number 2023-41? Okay, very good. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to postpone Resolution 2023-41 to our June 21st meeting.
Second. Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2023-41 is postponed till our June 21st meeting. Next up is item E9, resolution number 2023-42, authorizing construction agreement and corresponding purchase order for the 2023 miscellaneous road repairs project. Pleasure, Council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2023-42.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to resolution number 2023-42? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to postpone Resolution 2023-42 to our June 21st meeting.
I'll second. Ask for unanimous.
Thank you. Very good. This is unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2023-42 is postponed till our June 21st meeting. Next up, we have item E10, resolution number 2023-43, authorizing a construction agreement and corresponding purchase order for the Kenai Fire Department apparatus bay floor refinishing project. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution number 2023-43.
Second. Ask for unanimous.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to resolution number 2023-43? Seeing none, bring it back to council. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there an objection? Councilmember Winger.
Oh, I just had a question, if I can.
Sure.
I feel like we've been doing the flooring project over there for a really long time. Does this complete the scope of the work that's needed over there?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Winger. Actually, this is a little bit different than the other flooring projects. The other flooring project we've been doing have been inside the building where staff typically are. This is the flooring or the floor in the apparatus bay. So this is the first time we've taken this on. Again, this is a project we did receive only a single bid for, but it was within our scope and within our budget, and we think we're recommending approval of it.
Further discussion? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2023-43 is adopted. That brings us to item G1, action approval under unfinished business, extending the agreement for tourism and marketing services with the Divining Point LLC for 1 year. And there is a clerk's note at the May 17th, 2023 City Council meeting. This item was postponed to June 7th, 2023, and a motion to approve is on the floor. Now, just to kind of catch everybody up here, we were having a discussion about approving this contract to Divining Point, and the discussion came up regarding, I think, the ability of the chamber to maybe look at some of the scoping of this and what they could do for the city. I know when this was originally bid a while ago, prior to Divining Point getting it, there was a sort of a separation of the proposed management agreement by the chamber to handle both marketing and the facility management over at the visitor center. At that time, they weren't willing to really take on the marketing portion, so that's what sort of was the impetus for ultimately awarding a contract to Divining Point. So that's where we're at now, and I guess I would ask the city manager if there's been further discussion with the chamber regarding their ability or willingness to sort of fill the gap if we don't fill this, renew this contract. Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Well, we have been having conversations with the chamber, but I will tell you that on May 22nd, we did receive notice from Divining Point that they are not interested in extension of the contract. So we will be asking you to either fail or postpone indefinitely this action approval. I did meet with Sam and staff today, discuss the chamber, and I feel confident that the chamber is going to have the ability and the capacity to assist us with the marketing. What we're really focused on right now is transition of the two websites and getting those, the hosting and the movement of those websites so that on July 1, they are still up and running. We're looking at an agreement for that portion of the marketing, and then we're going to continue working with the chamber on other aspects of our marketing program. for fiscal year 2024. So I am excited. I think that this will also assist our chamber in some of their recent staff acquisitions and helping them to, keep and retain some of those folks because of the expanded scope of services that we're going to be able to work with them on. So I am very optimistic that we will have an agreement, and we're still working on putting that together, but we're focused right now on the website hosting component of it, and we'll be looking at the other components later in the fiscal year.
Thank you. Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Question for Mr. Eubank. So how's this going to affect Silver Salmon Derby? Because I know they kind of been running with a lot of that. So what would be the plan for that?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Winger, that is also something we're in discussions with the chamber on, and they're fully engaged and aware. That is one of the websites that we're also talking about. So the two websites we're talking about converting the hosting over on are the I Love Kenai website and the Silver Salmon website. And then once we get moving on the Silver Salmon Derby, the chamber is fully engaged and excited about working on that project with us again this year.
Thank you for that. And to Samantha, I think what you're doing on your marketing on the chamber's website, you've had a huge presence. You're doing a great job. So I would feel confident in what you would bring forward in managing all of that for us. Thank you.
Further discussion? Council or Vice Mayor Basin?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I am going to make a motion to postpone this unless there's more discussion. I move to postpone indefinitely and make a motion approving a one-year extension to the agreement for tourism and marketing services with Divining Point LLC.
Is there a second?
A second.
Discussion on the motion?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? See none. I'd like to thank Divining Point and Coy West from the CEO of Divining Point for the work that they did. I know there was challenges during that time with COVID. I think they did do their best to fulfill that contract, and would just want to thank them for their willingness to bid on that and serve the city of Kenai during that time. Seeing no objection to unanimous consent, the motion carries, and this approval item is postponed indefinitely. Oh, let's take a 10-minute at ease. back on the record. So that brings us to item H, where are we here? H15. Action approval extending the facilities management agreement with the Kenai Chamber of Commerce for the Kenai Visitors and Cultural Center facility operations. Pleasure of council. Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the city manager is authorized to extend the facility management agreement for the Kenai Visitor and Cultural Center facility for 1 year with termination date of June 30th, 2024, and that all other items and conditions of the agreement remain in full force and effect.
I'll
Request
second.
unanimous consent.
Second.
I just want to make a declaration on that I have a possible conflict with approving the extension of the facilities management agreement with the city Kenai Chamber of Commerce, as that I'm a member on the Kenai Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, but there would be no monetary compensation of that position on my part.
Yeah, for the sake of perception, transparent, I'm going to rule that you do have a conflict and will recuse yourself from the vote. Further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
I requesting unanimous.
Oh, you did? Okay, unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? See none, the facilities management agreement with the Kenai Chamber of Commerce and Kenai Visitors Center and Cultural Center facilities operation is extended for 1 year. Thank you for that, Mr. Dothett. Item H16 has been moved to after executive session. So next up, we have item H17, discussion action, scheduling a special meeting for June 29th, 2023 for city manager evaluation. And so just as a reminder, we do have in the contract with our city manager, we have a provision in there that we will provide a 6-month evaluation. Mr. Eubank was hired on, I think his start date was around June 9th, if I remember right, or January 9th rather. So we're coming up on the 6 month, so we're us to fulfill that, and for Mr. Eubank's, the ability to give him some feedback for his performance so far. We'd like to go ahead and schedule the evaluation. Now, Ms. Randall will do it the same way we did last time. Ms. Randall from Human Resource will send out the questionnaire, which we'll have. I just talked to her. She said she would be okay to have those back by the Friday before June 29th, which would be June 22nd. Today's June 7th. We could probably get those out tomorrow, I think, Ms. Randall said. So that would give you a couple weeks to get those back to her. We'll be able to get them filled out and then have the meeting. But I would like to schedule the meeting for June 29th if we could. Councilman Winger.
I am unable to make June 29th due to confliction with my kids' schedule. I would be available the 28th or 27th, but I am unavailable unless it was completed by 6:15.
So you said you're available on the 27th, is that right?
26th, 27th, 28th, the 29th, I would just be unavailable after 6:15.
Okay, Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be out of state, taking a young man to the Navy Academy during that time, so I will not be here.
Okay. Further, I think we can probably get through this with, without having everybody here, even if you're not able to teleconference in, because if you fill out your survey, we would be able to fill those and compile that for the evaluation period. Then that would leave us the meeting with Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, I'll have no problem getting the evaluation back to you as long as we get them soon.
Okay.
I'd be
Councilmember-
happy to telephone in if that is the date and time that works best for everyone else.
Very
What
good.
Time
Councilmember
are you
Dawson?
looking on the 29th?
I was thinking about 6 p.m.
I could do the 28th or 29th. Either way would work for me. If we did the 28th, we could do it earlier because they have P&Z at 7, but I don't know if it would take that long.
Let's see. Let me pull it. So your hope is to do it on the 28th at like 5,
5 or
4:30?
5 would be as early as I could do it on the 28th. But if we did it on the 28th, we could do it before the P and Z meeting. I don't see it taking 2 hours unless we, I think otherwise.
Vice Mayor Basin?
I'll need somebody to sit in the P and Z too, so thank you for that.
See, they'll already be here.
Yeah, good segue. So if we go the 28th at 5 PM,
I can make it that.
And I could just, on the 28th, I could do the fill-in for you. Just follow, if we're going to do it on the same day, that'd be easier for me then.
okay, very good. Okay, let's shoot for January 28th, or June 28th, sorry, at 5 PM. Are you good, Terry, with that?
No, I'm in Wrangell. I will be back the 29th, but I'm in Wrangell on the 27th and 28th.
Are we able to do it the previous Friday, that 23rd?
Well, I could propose that we do the, well, we'd have to get our evaluations in a little bit earlier than that then for Ms. Randall to compile. I wouldn't have any objection to,
I can definitely get the eval in before, but I'll be gone that week. I'm going to miss the 21st meeting because I'll be in Canada. So I don't get back until late Friday.
okay. Well, if we're going to do it then, is there any objection to going maybe the 21st at 5 PM prior to our council meeting? And that would mean we would have to get, if we did the 21st and you got your evaluations back by the 16th, would that give you enough time, Ms. Randall? Thank you. So if we can get the evaluations back to Ms. Randall by the 16th, that will give her, Councilmember Winger.
I would just request to have a printed off evaluation, just to make it easier so I can get it back on time.
Yeah, the printed off template.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can swing by Ms. Randall's office.
Thank
She
you.
can grant you that or give you that. Does that work for you, Mr. Eubank? Okay, 21st at 5 PM. Okay, all right. And that brings us to item H18, discussion action, Kenai Peninsula Borough Ordinance 2023-11, amending Borough Code to reduce the number of seats. In the Planning Commission, this was brought to us by Mr. Bloom, so Mr. Bloom. And I believe there's a lay down with a substitute, the Kenai Peninsula Borough substitute ordinance. Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. So we had hoped that we would have a chance to comment on the borough's ordinance, but they actually took action last night. We had requested that they postpone, that they move any amendments and then postpone a vote on it until we had an opportunity to weigh in. But City Manager Eubank and I talked to their mayor today, and they went ahead with it because they decided that it was, the changes were in our best interest. So as previously proposed, they're reducing the number down to 9, and they were going to have each assembly district have one representative on the planning commission. Because we have one representative that is solely in the city, we would have been guaranteed a seat on the planning commission. They changed it. Soldotna had some amendments. They didn't move Soldotna's amendments that would not have been favorable to the city, but I believe it was Assemblymember Cox introduced a substitute that basically guarantees the city of Kenai, Homer, Seward, and what's the fourth one? Well, Kenai, Soldotna, Homer, and Seward a seat. So those 4 municipalities each get a guaranteed seat. So we're basically, the changes didn't really affect us that much. So I thought we would be asking you for comments on any changes they made, but the truth is it's too late. So we already had it on the agenda, but I just wanted to fill you in.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Basin.
Yeah, thank you for that. There's not a lot of things that I agree with the assembly. I do agree with this one. I think this works. I don't think, reducing it from 14 down to 9, similar to what we have with assembly members, I don't think it'll affect the city in a negative way either. But we do have 2 assembly members that represent us. You gotta remember, there is a little piece of us that is carved out, that live over in the Pillars in that area, that is carved out, that's not represented by the same person that the majority of the city is.
Right, so there's actually 3 assembly districts that cross over into city boundaries. So there was the potential with the original ordinance as introduced by, I think it was Assemblymember Elam, that the city could have had 3 seats. But what they did is they created new districts that carve out the city for planning commissioner seats. So we have 1 automatic guaranteed, but the new districts for which they would draw people from outside the city exclude the city.
Yeah, I think it's a good compromise.
Further discussion? Yeah, I did have a lengthy conversation with Assemblymember Cox on this, and I think what his substitutes sort of it was sort of a compromise to reduce the number of seats, but also provide representation, because the city of Soldano was different in the fact that they didn't have a sole city seat, and I don't think that would have been a rotating seat. So I agree that this is probably the best case scenario that would have come out of that. Any further comments or discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll go to Commission Committee Reports, Council on Aging.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. The meeting for Council on Aging, which was scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, has been canceled due to lack of agenda items.
Thank you. Airport Commission.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. The Airport Commission was scheduled for tomorrow, June 8th. It has been canceled due to lack of agenda items. The next meeting is July 13th.
Harbor Commission.
We didn't have a meeting between the last meeting and now. We've got one scheduled on the 12th. Don't know if we have agenda items yet, or no? Doesn't sound like it's going to be happening.
Parks and Recreation Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. No meeting information to report. Parks and Rec is busy. They're not going to have a meeting until August 13th, I believe, hopefully.
Planning and Zoning Commission.
The next meeting is June 10th at 6 p.m. here in City Chamber.
Thank you. Beautification Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Beautification Committee had a working group thing this past Saturday of planting flowers around the city of Kenai. I was not present at that event, so I don't know how that turned out, but they did meet and do that, and our next meeting is September 12th.
Thank you. Under report of the mayor, I've got a few items here. So on Memorial Day, I did attend the Avenue Flags over at Kenai Cemetery at 11 a.m. and then followed that up with a attendance at the Memorial Day ceremony at Leif Hansen Memorial Park. Was on the agenda, was able to say a few words, which I'm always honored to do for the folks that have sacrificed to allow us to enjoy the freedoms and liberties that we do. And ended up going over and spending some time over at the American Legion Post after that, and had a pretty good day. I did attend. So Mayor Machicki, he put out an email to the Peninsula mayors to have. He'd like to meet quarterly with the mayors to just sort of roundtable, sort of informally, things that are that might be worth or combined interest to utilize combined resource, or at least get issues out there that are of mutual interest to the cities within the peninsula here. So we did have our first meeting over at the Borough Building, and like I said, it was something to be quarterly. There was a number of things discussed, spruce bark beetle mitigation, fisheries, service areas, and things like that. So pretty productive meeting, but it's always interesting to kind of figure out what other, housing across the peninsula for each community. So I think it was a very good first meeting to sort of talk about things that we are of interest, or maybe things that need to be worked on within each community. I did attend the, like I said earlier, the Kenai Arts Center, which was encourage everybody to go over there and spend some time to go through that exhibit. It's very, very well done, and very, very talented artists here in Kenai. You'll realize they're first off. I did attend last Saturday. Did attend the first fish event, which was at the Kenai Boat Launch. This was an event that was the chamber helped organize, along with our fish processor in the area, Nate Burgo, did a lot to organize that. Where they had a great brought in some food trucks, had a little friendly competition for the judge competition for the best salmon prepared dish, which was it's one of these things I think we need to really build on. There's gain some excitement. One of the things that around this area that is so important, obviously, are fisheries, all fisheries, commercial, subsistence, personal use, and sport fish. So that's a nice way to kind of get excited about that, the upcoming season. In your packet, in your laydown, you'll notice there's a little flyer here that, so I got a call from Jeff DeLifka with the Boys and Girls Club a while ago that was interested in putting together an event that would benefit the food bank here in between, mutually, because it's, serves our area along with Soldana's. And he thought one of the ways would be to maybe put together a friendly competition between Kenai and Soldana of how we have food drop-offs, and then people would be able to, he's already had a pretty tremendous response from the community for sponsorships. And then there would be also the ability from June 26th to July. Well, this is actually, I think, might be different, because I think we actually determined that we'd be able to take food donations up through July 4th, which is our parade, which we thought would be a good idea, maybe give Kenai a little advantage, or not advantage because they do the Wednesday market, but give us on the last of the week where we would have a place over at the Green Strip after the parade that people could come in and do canned food donations. But all that at the end of the day would benefit the food bank. And then when we move on, the winner would be able to throw out the first pitch for the Oilers night, which would be a free to families and children. And I think they're going to serve hot dogs and grill food and things like that, barbecue. And then they'll do the tally and the announcement of obviously which city won the food drive. So I think it'll be a neat event. Like I said, the response so far has been really good. I like to promote this as much as we can. I'm kind of a competitive person, so like to see obviously Kenai on top. I know Shelley and Megan, and I think Christine's going to be involved with this too, where we'll start fleshing out areas that we can provide canned food drops for within the city of Kenai. And I think there's also, if you donate food, there's a ticket that you get for a drawing, I think of $1,000 or something. Was that right, Shelley?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Yes, and that's why having various food drops is not going to work, because they can only get their tickets if they drop at the food bank.
But they'll be able to allocate where that donation is from, whether it's Kenai or Soldana. So pretty fun. More to come on this. Hopefully this will be an annual thing that will obviously benefit our local area. And then lastly, I just want to say that we have the Employee Appreciation event over at the city shop on June 9th. So I'll be attending that. And with that, I will move to administration reports. City Manager, Mr. Eubank.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple things, council. Actually, it's more than a couple, but I'll start with the big one. The city did receive the draft PPA from the Army Corps of Engineers for the Bluff Erosion Project. City attorney and myself are in the process of reviewing that document. We plan to schedule a meeting with the Corps to talk about any questions that we have. In addition to that, we've been asked to provide a new project financial certification. I can give you some numbers, which I think is exciting. The city is being asked, the city's finance officers being asked to certify the availability of $4,160,400 which represents 10%, an estimated 10% of the project. So right now, it's proposed at a, a $41.6 million project. And again, that still has a significant amount of contingency. We do expect those costs to come in less. But this is a great news because they've reduced our cost share in the PPA down to 10%, where prior to the word of bill, it was at 35%, which would have been significantly more. We will also be getting a credit towards that $4,160,400 for the costs the city has paid for the design. We've forward funded the entire design of this project, and also any costs that we incurred in the land acquisition for the project. So great news. Right now, they are projecting that the project or the PPA is likely not to be signed until August, which is a little bit of a delay. We're doing everything we can to make sure we get everything back to them as promptly as we can to keep this project, pushing as hard on our end to keep it moving forward. But I do expect at this point we probably won't be signing that PPA till August or even early September, which will still allow us, their projections, we still will be bidding this year. And with estimated construction in fiscals 24 and 25, 1-year warranty period, and then we will have the wall to ourselves at the end of fiscal 26. So that's kind of where we are with bluff erosion. I too attended the Return of the Reds that the mayor talked about. I thought it was a great event. Appreciate the chamber, Nate Berga, and the food bank for the work that they did on putting that together. Happy to report that the Kenai Dog Park's coming along nicely. The pavilion is near complete. The area out there has been prepped. Topsoil's been placed down on it. We expect seeding to take place end of this week, early next week. Fencing to be completed next week, and then it's a little bit of a waiting game. We'd like to, Parks and Rec is really pushing me to keep people off it as long as we can to let that grass get established, but we're going to do our best and see how long we can hold folks off. But excited that project's finally nearing completion here. I don't know how many of you have seen them, but Ms. Mitchell, our planning director, got the storefront improvement program for that project that was put forward by council members Askin and Sonart. We have packets out, been distributing a lot to local businesses. A little bit of a tight turnaround on this first offering. What our goal was, again, we had $50,000 in the fiscal 23 budget, which ends in 23 days. So that the first application deadline is actually a week from Friday on June 16th. So that we can utilize some of those funds, and then there will be a second application period opened for fiscal 24 funds, which again is an additional $50,000. So kind of excited, and there seems to be quite a bit of interest out there. So thank you, Ms. Mitchell, for getting that put together and put out. The playground equipment over on the park strip was completed today. So that has new equipment in it. There's a little bit of cleanup to do in the grass area over there, but the equipment is in and installed and ready to go. The city is preparing for DipNet, which will commence a little over a month from now. The mayor did mention, I'd like to invite everybody to Bobcats and Burgers, which is the city's annual employee appreciation event, 6 to 9 over at the city shop this Friday. The airfare takes place this Saturday with the barbecue from 12 to 4 over at the municipal airport there. So another great event that's put on by City here. So I would like to recognize, be my first time I get to introduce him in person. I know council knows him, but Mr. Tyler Best is our new Parks and Recreation Director. Tyler. We did have our first kickoff meeting on the Old Town Playground project. It was a productive meeting. We had the landscape architect there with representatives from the city, 2 representatives from the Canarsie Indian tribe, and 2 representatives from Salamantoff tribes as well. I think it was a very productive meeting, and Ms. Casey's moving forward on some proposed or about 3 options, and then we're going to meet again as a group and talk about those. But I think it was a great meeting. I think everybody was engaged and excited about the process, so appreciate that. Ms. Mitchell did provide me with some information regarding the floodplain maps for the Kenai Peninsula Borough. There's going to be a meeting on June 22nd hosted by the borough to go over these map changes from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Kenai River Center. And just, to highlight for council, within the city of Kenai, there will be 4 new structures added to the floodplain list, but 5 are being removed. So really very minimal changes here within the city, a net loss of 1 structure. And a loss in this case I don't think is a bad thing. It's just coming off that floodplain list. So if council's interested, we can get you additional information on that. Otherwise, there is that meeting on June 22nd over at the borough. I would also let council know the city did sign a subdivision installation agreement with Clint Hall. This subdivision is going in over on backside of kind of Inlet Woods there. Mr. Hall's going in and he's doing some work on the sewer system that was installed there and the water system, and then he's going to be paving that road. It's pretty exciting. This subdivision has 31 lots. He's already applied for and received 5 building permits, and he has another 8 building applications with us for a total of 13 to point. So he's looking at building a number of homes in there this summer and getting those on the market. And I think it's much needed. There's just not a lot of inventory out there, especially in the price range that I think his homes are going to come in the subdivision. So good news, and I'm glad it's happening here in the city of Kenai. I noticed the council expressed some concerns, and I have those concerns as well regarding stumps in our slash site. I can tell you I have been in contact with Mayor Machicki, and we are working together to try to identify a solution for the stumps there. But it's still a work in process. But it's something that's on the radar, and we're definitely working on. And the last thing I would report is that I would like to let council know that today we did execute the deed to sign the land over for the Boys and Girls Club there on South Spruce. So that land donation is complete, and we did sign that deed today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bank. Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Mr. Eubank. You actually covered quite a few of the questions I had, so thank you for that. Just wanted to know where we were at with Wildwood Drive. You had put out an email that we had received $600,000 worth of funding from the state, and we have negotiations that we have to do with Canarsie. So where are we with that?
Mr. Eubank.
Kenai, oh, sorry, Kenai Native.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Winger. City attorney and I met with their legal counsel, Mr. Butler, last week to start those discussions. And, I think he is going to meet with his clients on a path forward. And, we, expressed to him that the city is very supportive of his efforts and their efforts to try to resolve their issue regarding the land ownership of the right-of-way there. And that, we would be supportive of that and keep working on that, and, with hopes of having it resolved by late in 2023 so that the project can be bid in 2024. We're likely not going to get the grant and things from the state of Alaska in time to do anything this summer anyway, so it's going to give us some time to work with Kenai Native Association, hopefully to help them resolve that situation there.
Perfect, thank you. And then just want to throw out there, I've been working with Linda on this one, but just some concerns I have with our process on demoed buildings. I think there needs to be some housekeeping that administratively or this body looks at. We have a lot of buildings in our city that when you drive around, they're collapsed. And we don't have a very defined out process. So basically, they could get a demoing permit, but nothing in the permit, once somebody gets that demo permit, states they have 90 days or 120 days to leave a zero mess behind. So ultimately, somebody could come in to a down building and start tearing it up with a belly dumpster. We see that on some properties already for years. So I think this is one that we need to really look at to better. You know, buildings that are collapsed in our city are hazards for everybody, from animals to people. It affects our property values. So it would just be one that I would like to work with you on. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Dossett.
Back to the bluff erosion, I know we had the match for, set up for up to the 35%. Is it something that the additional 25% funds after the project is completed, are they earmarked specifically to be given back to somewhere, or would it be something we could roll into capital improvement project fund of some sort for the city?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm Councilmember Dothett. Those grants are specific to the project, but you know, we have to look at the scope of the project, and there are other phases I think that the city can examine in talking with the design team that you know, can enhance the project or, you know, reduce the amount of actual land loss at the upper side of the bluff once the wall is constructed, that the project itself with the core is not going to pay for. So I think we potentially have other uses for those funds, but at this point, it all has to be related to the bluff erosion project.
Thank you.
Further questions of the city manager? Councilmember Knoxton.
Thank you. Just two on a couple of things you talked about. The Clint Hall subdivision, I'm quite familiar with it. Are all of those lots going to be served by city, water, and sewer in the end? You said he was working on the sewer, so I'm not sure what that.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Nack said yes, they will all be served by city water and sewer.
Okay.
Councilmember Knoxton.
Next question on the bluff erosion. I'm sure the $41.6 million is the Corps' estimate, correct? That's correct. Yeah, and would it be appropriate if we have another estimate from our consultant, or is that top secret?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Nack said I think that's in conjunction with our consultant, and that's what the Corps is progressing with towards bidding. So it's also pretty exciting that, you know, the Corps, if you remember correctly, you know, Senator Murkowski assisted the city in getting $28.5 million for the Corps share, and they found the additional funds to get up to their $37 million share. So that is the number that will be go forward. It'll be in the PPA, and that's likely what will be the estimate when it goes to bid.
Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. So with the Hall subdivision, am I thinking of the right place? Is this going to be the area off of Redoubt that goes back into Juliana that's not paved right now that he has, that he'll, what is it called? Skylar, that area. And I know, you know, in the woods, there've been a lot of drainage issues back there and stuff, so I'm assuming when we watch this area that it'll be done proper, because it seems like we've dealt with a lot of problems in that area.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Basin, that is the area. It is a different road design on this section of road. It doesn't have any curb and gutter in it, so it has a higher road base with ditches to provide that drainage, unlike Inlet Woods, which is more curb and gutter and some catch basins. So likely not to have the same issues, but it doesn't have a storm drain system installed.
Further questions of the city manager? Seeing none, we'll go to the city attorney, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, members of council. I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions of the city attorney? Seeing none, we'll go to the city clerk, Ms. Sainer.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I just wanted to thank the council for the opportunity to attend the International Institute of Municipal Clerks Conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There were several general sessions on focusing on negatives and positives, making your workplace the best place to succeed. I took an educational track that had sessions on evolving field of election, digital government, and I loved this one, civility CPR. And then we also, it's an opportunity where our regions meet, and I'm part of Region 9, so the states represented there are Alaska, California, Oregon, and Washington, and we update and talk to each other about issues going on in our states. So thank you very much, and available for questions.
Further questions of the city clerk? Seeing none, we'll move to additional public comment. Is there anybody from the public that'd like to address the council at this time? Seeing nobody online and nobody in chambers, we'll move to council comments. Councilmember Dothett.
Just progressing in a busy summer season. I know the chamber's got some exciting events happening this summer. We've got our fundraiser coming up, so make sure to try to attend that on the 24th. Lots of new events, and it'll be exciting to be outside and at the chamber building. And then it sounds like we're going to have a little bit of traction on getting some food trucks over there at the chamber. So if you see some new vendors moving on over there, to swing in and say hi and probably patronize them a little bit to give them some business. So I think that's kind of a neat idea to utilize that area to draw attention to it. So, and I will not be here on the 21st's meeting. I will be out of country, but thank you. I can still do the 28th fill-in on P&Z though.
Thank you. Councilmember Dothett, or Councilmember Sonart, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. First, I'd like to say congratulations to Tyler Best for your new position as Parks and Rec Director. I just think that's dynamite. I'd also like to say thank you to Linda Mitchell for putting together these very nice folders for the storefront improvement project, and for actually seeing that they get distributed out there to interested parties. And she gave us a few, and so we'll be handing them out also. But thank you for doing that. And also, I went by the dog park the other day to see the improvement, and as it was reported by city manager, the entrance pavilion is coming along and put together, and the dirt work is mostly done and waiting to be seeded, and it just looks very exciting. So we're anxious to get on it, but I understand the necessity of letting the grass grow in, because I know my dog would tear it up. So it's got to grow strong. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Congratulations, Tyler. I look forward to working with you. I attended the Memorial Day services also. I'm privileged to have a father and a brother who both have served. Thank you, Linda. As Councilmember Sonart said, these are wonderful packets, and I look forward to us working on those. And I look forward to the employee appreciation evening on Friday. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I do have a few things to go over. First off, I'd like to express my deep condolences to Mr. Bob Summer. He was an 8th grade teacher at Kenai Middle School. He passed away recently. He will be greatly missed in our community. If you're not familiar with him, he's taught at Kenai Middle School for, 25 plus years. He's pretty much, this year he would have had my kid in his class, so it was kind of coming full circle, and maybe that's what scared him off. No, I'm joking. He was a great man. They are going to be doing a memorial hike this weekend at Skyline, and there will be some other community things for Mr. Summers' memory. Kind of going down from that, I'd also like to thank the Kenai Fire Department. They donate fire truck rides to various entities, events, and I had a chance of bidding and winning one. These are very expensive bids, by the way. And I had 4 kids go to school at the end of the school year in a fire truck. It was a huge deal for the teachers, the staff, the kids, and they just really enjoy this. We put a video of the ride on TikTok, and it has almost 1,000 views. People really like fire truck rides. So I just want to say thank you to Chief Pryor for doing that and pulling his guys to offer that to our kids. Congrats to Tyler. Look forward to working with you, Parks and Rec. And, I've said for a long time, you deserve that job, so I'm glad you put in for it and got that. I'd also like to thank Officer Trevor Miller. He has had 25 years of continued service to our community, and he is a huge asset to our force, and I just want to thank him for his service to our community. I'd also like to mention about the laydown in the packet. That's for the Kenai Animal Shelters Animal Fair. This is a first-time event. It's going to be this Saturday from 10 to 2 at the Green Strip. They have a whole slew of vendors that you can see on that. If you stop by, there will be some great information from many of the different entities in our community. And if you're able to maybe sign up as a dog foster, they are always looking for fosters through different rescues for dogs and or cats. I'd also like to mention if you plan on being in the 4th of July parade, they are asking for everybody to get registered ahead of time so that they can better plan that. So if you plan on being in the 4th of July parade, get on and get your registration in. And again, just want to thank everybody for the discussions this evening. And again, thank Animal Control. They have been inundated with animal controls of barking dogs and roosters, and they've been pretty prompt to get out there. And yes, we've had quite a few roosters. Poor Chris walked my neighborhood, I think, for 3 days straight until he found the rooster, and the rooster was removed pretty promptly. So I just want to thank them for working hard on that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. So I did neglect, Director Mitchell did work session with Planning and Zoning on the street front enhancement program, and she spent some time with Planning and Zoning, and I think she gave them some good information, so I think that was well received. I do have to echo the condolences also to Mr. Summers. He was a wonderful teacher over at the middle school. My son got to spend an hour or so with him up in the hospital a few weeks ago, and there's no doubt Mr. Summers sparked him because he went and tried to climb Mount Rainier here just recently, and he got to spend some time discussing that with Mr. Summers. So it was pretty nice for him to see a student be able to spend some time up there with him. He will be missed. And well, it's a 37-year wedding anniversary for me and my wife, so I really appreciate her putting up with me.
Councilmember Naxton.
Congratulations on your wedding anniversary, by the way. That's great. Congratulations, Mr. Best, on your new position. I look forward to our first meeting in August, be like a fall month, but anyway, congratulations on that. The airfare was mentioned earlier. Of course, there's the lunch, but there's also a breakfast component, but that will be in Soldotna at the airport. It'll be well signed, and that starts at 8 o'clock. It's probably 8 to 10, 10:30, something like that. So get there early. That'll be going on. There'll be some other activities going on as well. The historic cabins had a number of leaks in their roofs. Metal roofs, most of them are nailed, some of them were screwed, but through time and wind and action, there was some leaks, and a number of volunteers got together and reattached a lot of that and did some sealing and whatnot. And the reports I'm getting now is that the leaks seem to have been taken care of, so that should help preserve those assets of the city. And I am looking forward to the employee appreciation party this Saturday. Friday. Oop, I'd have missed it. Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Vice Mayor Basin, on your longevity. I just celebrated, my wife and I celebrated our 40th on Sunday, so.
You're much older than I am.
Yeah, I don't think so. Saying, I just felt now you called it on the carpet, I had to respond to that, so thanks for that. My wife will appreciate it, I'm sure. With that, we have we have an executive session here scheduled this evening. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council and the City Clerk review and discuss the the city clerk's evaluation in an executive session, which, a subject that tends to prejudice the reputation and the character of the city clerk.
Second.
Discussion on the motion?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested, and just for informational purposes, this is a housekeeping issue relating to a prior negotiation with the contract, so just wanted to throw that out there. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, we will convene into executive session.